Should you learn from a high school dropout how to make your customer experience better? Stay tuned and find out.
Welcome. Okay, here's the question.
You serious?
How are we dark horses? You know, the ones everyone is betting against, the ones they don't expect to win, place, or even show on the track, and they'll even laugh on us when we talk about trying. How do we show the world our greatness and triumph?
Come on.
Well, that's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
Let's go.
This is The Dark Horse Entrepreneur. My name is Tracy Brinkman.
And push it up.
What is up? What is up? What is up, my Dark Horse friends and family? Welcome back to your weekly dose of customer experience learning. I'm your Dark Horse host, Tracy Brinkman. And you? Well, that is infinitely more important. You are a driven entrepreneur or a business owner or hoping to be one soon. Either way, you're here because you're ready to start, restart, kickstart, and just start leveling up with some great marketing, personal, or business tips and results in order to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. That's why I'm here bringing you another big episode today. Today, Edgar Blazona shares a wealth of information on trusting yourself, how the experience shouldn't suck, easing out of norms, showing them you mean business, and it's not about being the best, it's about you got to find that out a little bit later. Plus, I want to let you in a sneak peek for next week's interview episode guest who used to work side by side with Jeff Bezos at Amazon. As per usual, the Dark Horse Corrals are chock full of personal, business, and marketing GOLD spilling from every corner of the Dark Horse Entrepreneur HQ. So let's get to the starting gates and go. All right, my Dark Horse friends and family. Today's guest is Edgar, I want to say this right, Blazona. Now, Edgar is a modern American furniture designer and the founder of the wildly popular DTC sofa brand, Benchmade Modern. Now, Edgar was a high school dropout turned graffiti artist, turned serial entrepreneur. And Edgar got his start in the furniture industry because of need. You see, he, like many of us, was young and broke. And his first apartment, had no furniture. Thus, necessity became the mother of invention. Now, he has started a number of companies, including Modular Dwellings, which is a prefab backyard shelter company. Maybe we'll get him to share a little bit about that. Now, but Edgar sharpened his skills, right? His entrepreneurial skill in the corporate world with Pottery Barn and Restoration Hardware, a little competition from my old days I was telling him about. But in there, he saw that customers were accustomed to waiting 3+ months for sofas and sectionals that really could be made in a much shorter period of time. And he realized there was a better way. So thus, he founded Benchmade Modern back in 2015, to be a disruptor. Edgar the Disruptor. Benchmade Modern provides sofas and sectionals. I believe it's in 5-inch increments, custom everything, custom configurations, custom desks, custom fabrics, yada, yada, yada. All this custom fabric can be dropped at your doorstep in weeks versus months. Edgar, wow, that's quite an introduction. There's a lot to unpack there. Welcome to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It is quite a bit to unpack. That it's a mouthful for
right?
Sure.
No, but you can't sell anybody short. I want to first off, I want to welcome you, obviously, but I want to shut up my babbling mouth and let you tell your story: the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, the downs that kind of brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, that's quite the story. It might be too much of a mouthful. I'll try to condense it a bit.
Sure.
Yeah. So I grew up in San Francisco. I was a teenager, obviously a high school student, and I was using graffiti as my art, and as a way to also be rebellious. I was kind of marrying the two, I wasn't into following the norm, so to speak. And from there, I started this small business called Graffiti Graphics. I used my friends as this group of painters. And I wasn't the best graffiti artist, but I could sell, right? And so I started selling this, endeavor that we were doing, this crew of artists. And I would go to stores and I would say, hey, we'll paint your walls for, $300. And if you buy the paint, you can imagine it was quite the sale to get people to take these young kids, these, hoodlums, and allow them to paint your walls. And we painted, clubs and for bands and, Lollapalooza concert series and all these big things. And it really was like kind of the start of my entrepreneurship. And then later on, I left high school, and looking back on it, I don't know if it was the right decision or not. But I left high school. I wasn't learning anymore. I just was kind of in this space of just going to school. And frankly, I wasn't doing a very good job of school. And so I learned and I learned to trust myself. And so I dropped out of school, my senior year. Who does that? And looking back at it as an adult now, I think, did you? Yeah. Really? Yeah. Well, look at us now. Right. But we had to have a lot of trust in ourselves, right? We 100%. Had to have, I always knew I wanted to be something. So for me, dropping out of high school wasn't, I'm just going to be a flunky the rest of my life, right? I wanted to continue growing and building what, the things that I wanted to do, these dreams that I had. And gosh, I had my first apartment, I had a car. I had a car 2 years before I was even had a license. I had this secret car parked up the street, and so I had plans. I was ready, but I didn't have any furniture, right? And so I started to build some furniture. I started to make it myself. I couldn't afford anything. Mm-hmm. You might. Some of those retailers back then, it was Z Gallery, right? That was the place. I'm sure you remember that name, right?
Yeah.
And they had modern stuff. And so I kind of made my own Z Gallery stuff. And I ended up selling it at a gallery. I made $400. It felt like more money I'd ever seen in my life, all in one chunk. And honestly, I've been in furniture ever since.
Nice. Now, inside there, you in the intro there, obviously you had been working for some of the big names, the Pottery Barns and the Restoration Hardwares, but you saw these folks willing to wait long periods of time. And like I mentioned to you earlier, back in my front gate days, we would go out there and create these, really focus more on the outdoor furniture. We had some indoors, like bar stools that were high end, but we create these, these amazing pieces of furniture that would go out on their back decks, and they were willing to wait forever for it. Right. Of course, they were also paying through the nose for this high end furniture as well. Where did you make that link of saying, okay, you guys are willing to wait 3, 5, 6 months, where really I know how to get this done in, 4 weeks?
Yeah. Great question. I started with what's funny about that journey is, I'd go to these dinner parties and, it's like the contractor who goes to someone's dinner and they're like, oh, hey, take a look at my basement. Like, can you look at my foundation while you're here? Right. I get the, oh, you're a furniture designer, you're a furniture guy. Like, I ordered this sofa from Pottery Barn or these chairs from Front Gate. And it took 16 weeks to get there. And man, this experience sucked. And by the time I got there, it was broken. And the shipping guy was late. And, all of the things that you hear constantly. Right. And I just got sick of it. Honestly, like I just started to think the sofa buying experience, or frankly, at that time, the furniture buying experience shouldn't suck. Like it just it shouldn't be this thing that's a drag, right? And so I went out, I kind of set out to change that. And, one of the things was, why does it take so long, right? It doesn't take that long to make, how could it possibly take so long? And so I started to make sofas. And interestingly, I made those sofas in the very beginning. You could pay a little bit extra. You could get a sofa made custom in 24 hours, right? And it turns out it wasn't a good business model. You would think it would be, but people get a little leery when, Restoration Hardware takes 16 weeks. How can you make it in 24 hours, right?
Right.
It's got to be crappy.
Yeah, it's got to be too good to be true, right?
Yeah, something's wrong, right? And so, we really, throughout the first, 6 months, a year, we fine-tuned the process, and we realized that people were afraid of something that could be custom made faster than it took to ship, right? If you could make it faster than it could ship, then there must be something wrong with it.
Right.
And
they've been trained, right? They've been so trained over the decades that this is how it is.
Yes. And frankly, that training works in the other direction, right? We are so trained, Amazon. And before that, FedEx. FedEx is an amazing business, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can put something in an envelope and a day later it's in New York, right? And
Right.
at the address. Just like get your head around that. It's really far, it takes a long time and to process, and someone's hand carrying it and whatever. Amazon did the same thing with shipping. And I don't think we realize we're almost numb to that, how amazing that is, right?
Yeah.
And so when you order a sofa, it takes us anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to get it across country to you. It ships in a giant truck. Truck drives it to you, old school style, right? It doesn't fly on an airplane; it drives. And so I think people have forgotten that, and we have to still kind of play in that game, because we've taught people that you can just order something online and have it tomorrow. But with the sofa, you got to wait a little while. We got to make it, and then you got to ship it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a cost associated with both of those.
Absolutely.
I think it's one thing to be like, I'm going to assume your facilities are up in the Bay Area in Northern California, correct?
We have two facilities. One is in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is like the West Coast hub for upholstered goods, right?
Okay.
There's the suppliers are there. There's lots of labor. My first factory that I ever built, I built it very specifically in Los Angeles because it was close to me in the Bay Area, something that I could manage, but still had the labor. So, okay, we have all these tricks and whatnot that we're doing, kind of behind the scenes and all that. But the real thing is upholstery is an old world technique, right? It takes someone who knows how to, stretch the fabric and pull it around and staple it correctly. And so you have to have skilled labor. And when you're making as many sofas as we do these days, we got to have a lot of skilled labor. So Los Angeles works really well. We have another facility in Dallas, just outside of Dallas proper. And that's where we make all our stuff. It's all made in the US, and we're pretty proud of that.
That's, I think it's a pretty important point as someone is out there delving into an arena, whether it's upholstery or something else, that there's usually a pool of the labor that they're going to need in different areas because of, just nature of the beast, right? Yeah. You want someone that knows how to do dairy. You probably want to come up here to the North Midwest because, man, Wisconsin's all about the dairy. They know their dairy inside and out. Yeah. And so to set something up maybe in Arizona, do dairy, probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
So you got to think through those things like you did.
Totally. It wouldn't be a good idea for me to set up an upholstery place in Wisconsin, and, to think of that too. That's something when you're setting up your business, it's something to think about, right? Because not only do you have to have labor, but in our case, we have to have materials, right? Foam is a big, important part of a sofa. And, you can't be shipping your foam from LA, to Wisconsin and expect to have a reasonably priced, product at the end.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. I know there's with the events of the past couple of years, one of the companies I work with, they do a lot of trucking of paper goods. Toilet paper is one of the things, as well as foam goods. And it's a very thin margin that they have in there. So having to truck it from one facility, even though they have a facility in Dallas and one in Houston, just moving that far. It eats into their profits significantly. So they're like, we would rather store it. You got to think of all these little moving pieces, especially in the brick and mortar. In the online specific arena, a little different, but certainly if you're having an end product such as a couch, you definitely want to weigh those facts. That reminds me of another thing, and I'm a little bit of experience in this, but I want to hear your perspective. Someone goes to buy a $700 to $1,200, bar stool, right? Or in your case, a couch. And I don't know your price ranges of your couches. I'm sure they vary. Without ever seeing it, well, they see it. They see a picture of it. But we all know that sometimes it's not quite the same. Without ever really touching it, how do you get them over that hump?
Yeah, great question. So, for us, it's all about the experience, right? We're trying to build an experience. Our sofas are, anywhere from say $3,000, for a standard size sofa to 5,000 to 7,000 for a sectional, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not inexpensive to say the least. They're very good quality, right? And so how do I show you, how do I convince you that it's good quality? I have a lot of little tricks. One trick is I send you this big giant box of swatches.
Mm-hmm.
I very intentionally send that second day air, right? It's expensive. It's this like 12 by 12 box. It's got 100 swatches in it. They're 4 by 4 inch panels. They're big, and it's not a cheap thing, but it's doing two things. One, it's showing our fabric, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, it's kind of showing you that we mean business, right? You get this thing in the door, and it's the first one there, and it's like, whoa, this is badass, right?
Yeah.
And then you get these other envelopes from other companies, and you're like, well, look at those guys. And whether you realize it or not, I've kind of set the tone for what the standard should be, right? Yeah. So that's one hurdle. And then another step within that process is we talk about the funnel, right? That's a big marketing lingo for you.
Yes.
Start up here, this big group of people, you come to the site, you're at the top, and then I'm driving you down till you get to the sale, right?
Right.
The swatch process is somewhere in the top, then a little bit lower after you've shopped around. It's a long consideration period, right? It takes like 2-3 weeks, something like that for customers to purchase, right? To become comfortable. That's a lot of time when they can come and go, right?
Yeah.
They leave to another site, some other one sells them on something. So our whole focus is this quality piece, right? How do we convey that without you really kind of knowing that, right? And
mm-hmm.
Another process we have is you can hit the print button. We'll send you a full scale drawing of your custom sofa to roll out on the floor. Like a giant tube of paper that you roll out on the floor, whatever size sofa you chose, a corner sectional, all that. You lay it on the floor. You check to see, can my husband fit in between the arms and take a nap, right? Can my family sit on each cushion? Does it fit the room and all that? That's just another step. And it's a very tactile step, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's designed to be that, right? And it's this experience. It's not like buying a t-shirt, right? It's this whole different experience that I'm trying to kind of bring you through to frankly convince and give you confidence in making the purchase, spending the time with us.
No, that's money right there. I really like that idea of that full scale drawing that someone can roll out because, like you said, if it's the closest thing you're probably going to get to experience it, the size and how it's going to impact moving things around. And how many of us guys out there, and you're going to raise your hands of, no, let's move it over here. No, let's put it over here. Right?
Yes, totally.
Maybe it's a little easier with the paper, right?
Totally. And what you don't realize is at the end of the day, like there's all these kind of things happening in the funnel, right? This mysterious funnel. But what I'm really doing is you are investing your own self in this custom product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're vested in something that you haven't even bought. You've designed it, you've picked the color, you've picked the size. All of those things are all focused on you making what's right, the right choice for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, our return rate is really low, right? Because of that, because we've brought you through this kind of thing. Suddenly you're the furniture designer.
You're now listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Suddenly you're the one who made this thing happen, and Benchmade Modern is just kind of the ones who made it. And it's very intentional. And, at the end of the day, we send you a great product. It's really good quality and we have very low returns. And I think a lot of that has to do with that process that we bring you through.
Yeah. Helping them. Well, they're pretty much selling themselves, right? Because they're going like, now you mentioned they become the designer. Is there a tool in your process where they can kind of quote, I'm using air quotes here for those that are listening to the podcast, that they design their own furniture, or do they select kind of modes and?
Yeah, honestly, I think all that stuff's kind of cheesy, to be honest.
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
And I think it's cheesy in a way because it doesn't really work very well. You're holding up the iPad, it's flipping and turning and, you're losing connection and it's putting another color. The quality isn't very good. So that's why I've kind of reverted back to a non, you know, a non like, gosh, I don't know, tech way of doing it, right? You're taking a fabric. Is this right? So when I mean they design it, everything is in 5-inch increments. So they're building this sofa in 5-inch increments. We've got every shape and every size. They're going online. They're seeing if that's the right sofa for them, and so on. Then they get the fabric. Then they get this drawing. And by then they've decided if it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Nothing has crashed along the way. Nothing is, you can drag this slider around our site. You can see the sofa expand and contract. That shows you how many cushions there are, right? If I go from 90 inches to 95 inches, it suddenly goes from a 2-seat sofa to a 3-seat sofa, right? So there's a little bit of what you're talking about.
Sure.
But we're not doing augmented reality. We're not doing any of that stuff.
That's cool, though.
Our customers are like 40 or, in their 40s, 50s. They don't augmented reality. They don't want that.
Not yet anyway, right?
Not yet. And
pretty soon they'll have the Oculus on.
Yeah, totally. And when it becomes better, when the quality of that becomes better, then I'll probably pick that up. But right now, I like these tactile.
When I got married to my now wife, I went through the experience of designing my own ring, right? So I wanted my own little custom ring, and I found this cool website, and they had a variety of selections that you went through so you were designing the ring in a controlled environment, kind of like what you're saying. All right, you can do this. You pick the design. Here's the length and everything. And I was invested in it because I was going through and I was making the little tweaks. Oh, do I want titanium or do I want white gold, or do I want the thick ring or the thin ring? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so by the time it was all done, and when the ring arrived, I was like, it was, I can totally envision what your customers are going through. Because when I finally had it, of course, they sent the picture. Here's the final design. Make sure you approve it. Yada, yada. So by the time I was sold, it was, the money was whatever. Give me my ring. Give me my couch. Right. And I'll
bet you $1 million. I bet you told someone, look at this ring I designed. Right.
Yes.
And you didn't really, but you felt like you did. And that's what's fun. And that's what made that ring buying experience excellent. And 100%. What you just described is what I try to convey to my team. They turned you into a brand advocate. Look at the free commercial you basically just gave them, right?
Right, 100%.
You just did that. And that's what we try to do with sofas, right? We want you to, our best advertisement is when you tell your neighbor what a great sofa this is, and that's an important piece to our sales, kind of motto.
I think that's what every business wants out there, right? They want people becoming brand advocates. The folks are waving the flag for them, right? Yeah, we're still going to advertise and do all that noise. But man, when a customer says, John, let me tell you what about this couch, man. Let me tell you, right? Yeah, then it's you can't pay for that kind of advertising.
No. And it's the best. And we work really, really hard to make sure that every struggle, every problem that there may arise, but like I said before, buying a sofa shouldn't suck, right? Like experience should not suck. And so we do everything we can to take that bad experience and turn that into a brand advocate, turn that customer into a brand advocate, so that they're out there going, man, you know what? Like, this thing happened, but they turned it around and they flipped the script on me, and man, this is a great thing. And I love these guys,
That's awesome.
And that's pretty cool. And so we strive for that.
Sweet. And I think we all should, 100%. Here's a question for you. Given the price ranges that you're playing in, right? It's not every Joe Schmo is going to be going over to your website. Do you have like a white glove service where it's like, you know what? Yeah, it's coming across to you in that truck. You just have to point us in the corner where you want it, and we're going to unload it. We're going to do everything, and we're going to take away all the goods, and you don't have to do anything. You have one of those in your price?
Yeah, we sure do. We will ship for, I think it's $99 curbside right now, and then maybe $300, $350 for white glove, right? And they'll bring it into the home. They'll unpackage it, they'll bring it into the home. They will put it in the right place. All of the things, they'll set it up for you. It's quite a service. Gosh, when you're buying a $5,000 sofa, it's well worth it. And just to know, that you're not going to drop it or something like that on your way in and, dig a corner, and suddenly you've got a whole nother problem on your hands. So I think the white glove experience is really good. And, whether these days it's actually with white gloves, you find some guys that actually wear white gloves. They don't all wear white gloves these days. I wish they did, though. That would be super cool.
That would be money, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would pay extra.
I want an actual white glove service.
Yes.
All right. So along the path of firing this awesome company, I urge everyone to go check this out. And we're going to be sure to get all the website and connection information from you in a little bit here. But I know building something like this is challenging, right? And inside challenges, often there are hilarious stories to be shared. You have to share at least one of these giggle moments.
Gosh, what's a giggle moment? Boy. Well, I'll tell you one. I don't know if it's a bad moment, but it certainly is an interesting moment.
Okay.
I used to do all my Bay Area deliveries, right? I thought, okay, I'll be the white glove guy, I'll we'll ship it to a warehouse here, and then I'll go pick it up in my truck, like my actual pickup truck, right? And I would bring a guy if it had to go inside or not, and I would often, use dollies or whatever to bring it inside, even if the customer didn't have white glove. You'd be amazed what kind of delivery I can do into your home, up some stairs by myself, right? I know a few tricks, right? I was delivering to a home in Palo Alto, and I used to do this delivery for a couple reasons. One, it was early on in the company. It saved me a couple $100, each time. That adds up, right? That's like, almost a paycheck at the end of the month, right? And so it was really important that I did that. Another thing, it allowed me to see what my customers' homes look like. As a designer, does the scale of my sofa fit inside these homes, right? It also taught me, I used to have up to 12 feet. Getting a 12-foot sofa in a customer's home is a nightmare. If there's a single turn, if there's even a turn, down a pathway outside, it's difficult. So I learned that 12 feet is too much. So funny story, I go to this home in Palo Alto, right? I got my truck, I got my dolly, and I'm dragging this thing in. I get it into this home. It's a modest home, but nothing in Palo Alto is too modest, right? And these people start asking me questions, and they're saying these, things, and they're asking me these pretty like on point questions. And you coming from, your old days of Front Gate, you would pick up on these questions too. And they're asking me things that, someone from the industry must know. And I'm answering them. And I finally say to them, where are you from? Like, why are you asking me these questions?
Right.
Turns out these two people, it's the husband and wife founders of house.com.
Oh.
Now, if you don't know House, it's this giant site of, looking at pictures and of people's houses. And I mean, it's a huge business, a public company now, right?
Uh-huh.
I was there early on. They had just started House, and they were grilling me, the delivery guy on, what the costs are, all these things. And it turns out then I started grilling them like, okay, you have this site. How come you don't sell any furniture? Like, why do you have all these people on your site? You sell nothing. Like, how crazy are you? And so we're going back and forth. It turned out that I ended up being their first test program of something that they sold. And nowadays they sell all kinds of things. They sell lots of brands and all that. But what an experience of just being the delivery guy and happening to show up on these people's home. It was quite the day.
That's magic right there. It's a small world, isn't it? That's you're just going, what?
Yeah, totally magic. And in fact, I called them up later on. We raised a bunch of capital to launch Benchmade Modern, and I called them up to ask them for some advice. I got some really good advice from them, and they helped me along the way. So I guess we have a little bit of a relationship now.
That's awesome. And I think therein lies some of the magic in connecting with your customers at that level, especially in the early days, right?
Yes.
Do whatever you can to go above and beyond, even if you're doing it because you're trying to save a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
Still, as far as the customer is concerned, you're bringing their product to them, and you were able to make some connections. You probably learned a lot in the process, like you were saying, and now you've got that little relationship going.
100%. I love that kind of moment. We, during the pandemic, I don't know if you remember, but right when the pandemic started, we were all like going into our homes, right? And we stopped seeing our friends. And those very first Zoom meetings, and you'd see your friends be like, "Oh my God, I love you. Like, I miss you," And here in the Bay Area, we were having dance raves, right? We were having these big giant Zoom parties, everyone dancing in their living room and all that. And it dawned on me that what we really need for our company is a little bit more face-to-face, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing Ask Edgars. And there was this button you could push on our site, and you could ask Edgar any question, right? And then you would ask me a question. Sometimes it would be about a sofa, but oftentimes it wouldn't be about a sofa. It was Ask Edgar anything. And I would take the time to film these videos answering your question, because I wanted that face to face. You type this question, and then I would sit up and set this video up and answer this question. I got a few oddball questions, but it was really fun to take that moment to connect. And I really felt at the time that was most important for our company, even more important than selling a sofa, but was to connect with the customer in a way that it made them feel good about that experience. And I really do think that's a valuable part of business, and we lose that a lot as direct to consumers.
100%. Yeah, especially going through the Amazons and the online pieces of the world. A lot of that, you're right, gets disconnected. Because I can remember the days, of having to do everything on the phone, and things. Hey, it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to get to you, because that's what shipping was back then. That was. All right, so let me do an Ask Edgar for you as we start to wrap this up. Let's ask Edgar, of all the entrepreneurial experience that you have, all the way from your graffiti days up to now, what would be your, let's say, top marketing tip for our burgeoning entrepreneurs out there?
Wow, top marketing tip. Let me think. Well, it's a two-part answer. One is, the first part is good press, right? Marketing right now is so expensive. A click, a Google click, a Facebook advertisement, all that. The auction process of buying those AdWords, all of that is super, super expensive. And so good press can go really far. Affiliate marketing, which is also sort of in the press arena. However, I one caveat, I'm married to a PR person, right?
No.
So I do have a little insider scoop, but that's what it is. It's insider scoop, right? And what press does is, everyone thinks they have the best sofa, the best, restaurant, the best whatever. Everyone thinks that, right? That's not good enough, right? No writer cares about that, because everyone reaches out to a writer with the best whatever. So you have to have something that is actually writable, right? So you have to create something. Maybe you're doing it purely for the press, or maybe you're just standing behind what you do that's so great. And you just need to do it in a way. You need to tweak that a bit so that it's actually worth writing about. And once you marry that together with good press, then I think that's frankly the best marketing tip that you can have, the best marketing vehicle that you can have, for sure.
That's 100%. That's money right there. And anyone listening, you probably want to back that up and listen to it over again, because he's right. PPC and all the different pieces of marketing that's out there is gotten really crazy expensive. I started doing Facebook marketing, a decade ago now, and it was easy, right? Yeah. You knowing nothing could get out there and you could draw clients in like magnets. Now, you could easily lose your shirt. But go ahead.
One interesting point about press too, that advertisement doesn't happen. Press lives forever, right? Advertisement only lives for as long as you pay for it.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big key.
That's true. That's true.
But please, as I say this, and as I can hear my wife kind of telling me in the background, you have to have something that's actually pressworthy, right? It can't just be, I make the best hamburger, right? It's not interesting. Everyone makes the best hamburger. So you got to find a way to have an angle to make it worthwhile.
There it is. That's the magic word right there. That angle. Edgar, man, this has been money. I could sit here and chat with you for another hour or so, but I want to be mindful of your time. Let's give everybody all the great connection points, the websites, any email addresses. They want to learn more about you and your furniture. Where we want to send them to?
Sure. They should come to benchmademodern.com and check us out there. Definitely, like I mentioned before, order the swatches. You want to know about us? Order the swatches, touch and feel those things. They're really, really nice. You can use a code, use Dark Horse 15 for a 15% off code. And you can use that at any time, for your listeners and so on. They can pass that around. And I'm at Edgar Blazona at Twitter. If you want to send me a note there, I'm happy to answer, any questions. Honestly, I just try to be helpful. We're all in this boat together, us entrepreneurs. I really do try to I just hate it when you reach out to an entrepreneur and they just blow you off. But we're all busy. Yeah. So don't send me 75 million questions, but if you send me a few, I'll answer them. I'll do my best to help out as well. We're all in this together.
Awesome. Edgar, thank you again so much for hanging out and sharing your story, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been fun to kind of relive some of these stories.
Right? All right. There you have it, my Dark Horse friends and family. Edgar Blazona dropping furniture construction bombs on us today. What resonated with you? What clicked? Let me share some thoughts that resonated with me. Thought number 1, trust in yourself. Edgar talked about how he started his first entrepreneurial adventure all the way back in high school, selling his and his friends, his fellow artists' skills to local businesses and events. Yeah, they were using their graffiti talents to advertise those businesses and those events. Then it came to a point where he felt like he was no longer learning in high school, so he left it. Now here's the thing here. He still wanted to continue to grow and to learn. And stepping away from that conventional path of learning took and takes a lot of trust in yourself. Stepping away from what most consider the norm. Let's talk about you and me, right? The norm of the 9 to 5, that cubicle lifestyle, corporate America. Stepping away from all those norms and into an entrepreneurial lifestyle, again, takes huge amounts of trust in yourself. Edgar, you see, always knew he wanted to be something, and he set himself up to steer that course. Now, the question becomes, are you wanting to set off on an entrepreneurial path? Maybe you're already on an entrepreneurial path and you want to expand that path. All of these require that you have trust in yourself, have trust in your abilities, have trust in your skills, have trust in your knowledge, or at least your ability to gather the knowledge. And how can you build trust in yourself? How can you foster that trust within yourself? Well, here, let me give you a few quick ways that you can foster that trust. 6 little tips here for you, right? I could probably do a whole episode on this, but I'm going to drop them right here for you in this episode. Number 1, be yourself. Yeah, right. Oh God, Tracy, you say that all the time. Yeah, you kind of knew I was going to say that this time, didn't you? Right? Be yourself, who you truly are at your core, and your ability to trust yourself is going to explode. It's going to grow exponentially. You see, it's when you put up those plastic faces, those facades, those fake faces, that's when you distrust yourself. Why? Well, because you're being distrustful with others, to those around you. So you're distrusting yourself because you're probably thinking, well, I can't be the real me. Just be you. All right. Number 2, set reasonable goals. Look, You already probably know my high standards, my high regard for setting goals so that you are driven in the right direction consistently. But if you set a goal that you know in your heart is unattainable, then you're setting yourself up for failure. That's I'm just going to say it like it is, right? I'm not saying, and here on the flip side of that, I'm not saying you need to set these weak-ass easy goals either. You need to stretch. You need to put at least your toe out of your comfort zone. But I don't want you to go out there and saying that you're going to jump the Grand Canyon next week when you can't even step across the gutter today. All right? Number 3, be kind to yourself. Now, here's the thing. I know you're great at some things. I know you're really good at others. And let's be honest, there's probably a few that you kind of suck at. Don't go out there and beat yourself up because you're not great or perfect at everything. Be kind to yourself and keep on making those little improvements along the way. Number 4, build on your strengths. And as I just said, I know you're great at some things. You know you're great at some things. Well, then damn well get out there and leverage that greatness you already have. Stop fretting all the time about what you're not perfect at and use what you're already good or even great at and build from there. Number 5, spend time with you. Get comfortable with being and trusting you. Here's the deal. When you do not trust in you, you will not be able to take the time to look inward at you, to improve you. Here's what you're going to find yourself doing. You're going to find yourself busying yourself with more mindless and maybe even menial activities that are all outside of you, pointed at other folks. Okay? You need to pull away from that habit and begin to look at the man or the woman in the mirror and be patient as you begin to look inward and make those improvements. All right, last but not least, number 6, be decisive. Just that fast. Review all the facts and info that you have at your fingertips and make a choice. Now, if you truly feel you need more info, then set a timeline, set a deadline, say tomorrow, the next day, a day, a week, or 2, and then gather that info and make a decision. And here's the next thing, stick to it. Make that decision and stick to it. You will build trust in yourself by breaking the habit of overanalyzing and even questioning your decisions. Next time you make a choice, stick with it. Even if you find out in the end that it turns out it wasn't really the best choice. Learn from it. Move on. Bygones. And for those of you who've watched Ally McBeal, you just chuckled a little bit. See, there's really no use in beating yourself up over a decision you've already made. It's already done. All you can do is learn from the results and make a better decision next time. Wow, almost seems like that was all of it right there. But now this is thought number 2. The experience shouldn't suck. Edgar was watching customers in his industry go through this long waiting periods as well as cumbersome processes just to get something as simple as a piece of furniture picked out and delivered to their home. And I say simple because I've been in the industry and it's not as difficult as many might think to create a fine piece of furniture. He, however, Edgar, was bold enough to realize that even though everyone was willing to wait, they were willing to jump through all these cumbersome hoops, they didn't have to, nor should they have to. The customer experience should not suck. Come on, let's think about it. We've all been through some buying experience when you thought either out loud or at least in your head, holy shit, this does not have to be so damn difficult, right? Now, let's flip that moment on its head and think about it as an entrepreneur. Have you taken that same magnifying glass to the buying experience of your prospect or your client, that the one that they're going through right now? Now, I'm not talking about did you do it when you first set it up. I'm talking about have you done it recently? Because here's the thing, perhaps when you first set up the experience, you set up the best possible experience available to you with the resources you had available to you at that time. But what about today? Tomorrow, next month? How could you make it easier, smoother, smarter, faster, more reliable, more intuitive? How can you make it so right and harmonious for your customer to do business with you that not only do they want to come back, but they want to tell others. They want to go out there and say, oh my God, if you need X, you need to go to, insert your business name here, right? That, my friend, is the kind of advertising you cannot put a price tag on. Thought number 3, ease them out of and into norms. Edgar brought up a great point. In his industry, people were used to waiting not just weeks, but sometimes months to get a custom piece of furniture. And when he went to the market saying that he could build it in as little as 24 hours, he was met with, let's say, some resistance, right? The customers, the market was so trained on it takes months in order to get a custom piece of furniture that they looked at the quick turnaround as a loss of quality or, a scam, right? Now, on the flip side, if you can build it fast, why can't you get it to them fast? Like Amazon or FedEx. Well, because it has to travel via a different mode. This has to go via old school trucking. So there's a little time involved with that. And sadly, you can't just toss a large piece of furniture on a plane as easily as you can an Amazon box. So here's the question for you, my entrepreneurial friend. What norms are you facing in your industry? Are you able to greatly improve on those norms? Or maybe just over slightly improve on them? If so, great, do it. But do it with caution. And I would caution you on how quickly you introduce these new abilities, these new standards, these new superpowers to your market. Because you don't want to come out with your new superpower and get looked at as one of those, oh, well, that's too good to be true kind of folks, right? That would really just have the total opposite of what it is you're planning to do and deliver to your clientele. I mean, if you think about it, there's a number of ways you can address this. Education, for one. You can educate them on how you improved it and, what the old way was and how the new way is better. Or you could slowly roll out, right, for another. Maybe you can do it in 24 hours, but instead of going from 6 months to 24 hours, you go from 6 months to 4 months. That's believable. Then you compress it down to 3 months, you see, and you slowly step them in and re-educate them, right, rather than turning that ship instantly. But there's any number of tactics you could use, but whatever tactic you choose it wisely to ease them out of or into the new norm. In thought number 4, show you mean business. Edgar, in his industry, breaks the norm in his customer experience to show his prospects he means business. And one of the examples he gave is that fabric swatch sampling that he sends out. He invests in this onboarding of the prospect into the experience to differentiate his business from all the others in this experience. So take a minute, if you would. Picture it, right? You've just been online surfing for some new furniture, and you say, yeah, send me the sampling. All right. And the next day, or maybe actually I think he said it was 2 days. 2 days later, you get this awesome big box of 100 fabric samples, each measuring about 4 by 4. You can hold them in your hand. You can heft them, if you will, and feel the weight and the quality. You get to hold them up to the decor in your home to best pick out what works for your design and your desires. It gets you involved. It gets you immersed and invested in this buying process. Then, a few days later, you begin to get envelopes from other vendors who you served at the same time that you reached out to. You get an envelope with a few select 2x2 squares, perhaps some of it's similar fabric. Here's the thing. Which one leaves you with the best impression? Now, my entrepreneurial friend, I want you to ask yourself, of the touches that you make with your prospects, are you sending an envelope like everyone else? Or are you taking the time and the effort to invest in them to a second day air of that beautiful box of samples? Of course, I'm speaking metaphorically here, but you know what I mean, right? Does your landing page look like everyone else's? Does your freebie, or as they call it, ethical bribe, deliver the same stale, dry content as everyone else in your industry? If so, how can you show them that you mean business? I mean, after all, shouldn't you invest in them in as much as you're asking them to invest in you? All right. What inspiring ideas, tips, or thoughts resonated with you? Whatever they were, take some time, like right now, as soon as you can. If you're driving, go ahead, pull over it for a safe moment and write them down. That way you can get out there and put them in action, right? Yeah, you get out there, you run your race, you get your results, and then let me hear about them. I'm serious, right? Tracy@darkhorseschooling.com. I want you to email me, share the tips or ideas that you came away with, how you implement them, and what results you got. Heck, probably bring you on the podcast here and let you share your story. Now, next week, our next interview episode guest is going to be David Sellinger. Now, David was an early employee at Amazon and worked directly under Jeff Bezos. What's he doing today? Well, today he's inventing the next best thing. Well, it's actually probably the next big thing in home security. Deep Sentinel. You are not going to want to miss this AI intelligence and entrepreneurial gem-packed episode. Now, by the way, if you're looking for some help with your podcast, whether you're looking to launch one, you already have one and need some help editing and promotion, or if you're looking to monetize your podcast, please take a minute and reach out. Again, that email address is tracy@darkhorseschooling.com, or you can go to darkhorseschooling.com/coaching. Put your information there. Let's chat. I'll make sure you come away from that chat, that quick conversation call with a success plan, some tips, some ideas that you can take out there and start putting in action right away. Again, that's darkhorseschooling.com/coaching. Let's see how I can be of service to you in helping you start, restart, or kickstart your business and your podcast. Now, I know you want to keep getting all these valuable tips and inspirational stories from the amazing guests I'm lucky enough to bring on this show. So please go on down there, hit that subscribe button. While you're there, give us a 5-star rating. Yeah? Drop us a few words, some kind words in the review. And of course, do not keep all this entrepreneurial GOLD all to yourself. Share the podcast with other entrepreneurs and business owners that you know will get value from it. And with that, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
And you know this!
Thanks for tuning in.
Check us out at www.darkhorseschooling.com.
All right.
My name is Tracy Brinkman.